I know you have questions, and I'm going to try to answer them. I'm getting crucified on Instagram by a couple of people who just are so hard. And I assure you, no one is harder on me than me. So it's completely unnecessary. Yeah, I'm sick to my stomach over it. I'm also exposing myself. I'll tell you. I will tell you. You let me get my shit together. Hold on. If that's possible, I'll get my shit together. I've been working all day, so I went straight from one thing to another. And you guys are so amazing. I'm going to send you over to the Instagram comments to beat everybody up for me. People are hard. They're hard. Okay. I'm looking after myself. I am. I have never returned a dog to the shelter. Ever. You, Sarah, you're so funny. There's one person on there in particular. Thank you, Stephanie. There's one person, there's like 40 comments from this person. I don't know who it is, but challenging me, and I'm asking you respectfully, and why won't you answer? I'm like, I just finished working. Give me a second. I was up at 5 this morning to get her back so she wouldn't have to sit in traffic. Okay. I think we have enough people here for me to start. I know people come in at different times, but this is not the story I want to tell repeatedly just because it sucks. Hi, Ezra. No, but I will answer you. I will answer you because you deserve answers, and I am never not going to be transparent with you, even if it makes you mad at me. I'm just not going to do that. We ride at dawn. Feels good to laugh. Thank you for the heart, Puff. You know I love that thing. First, I just want to say one thing. I want to say that I'm seeing some comments not from you guys, but there are some comments of people saying, oh, you're under so much pressure. There's so much going on in your life. I'm a fighter. I don't go down with the ship sinking. Okay. So what's going on in my life is super sad, and I am soaking it all up and rising to it as best I can. I'm not doing more than I'm able to do. So yes, I do know what I can handle, and I can handle more than most, but taking on a shelter dog does not preclude me being able to have good judgment or do what I do and do it well. You do deserve to know it because you follow these journeys and you're here with me throughout it, watching the highs and the lows. You know, I'm not the only one who lost my last dog. Everybody here went through that pain too, and we canonized him together, right? So now I know that whatever I talk to you about when we talk, it's not just my experience. It's everybody who has lost, who is struggling with a dog or hard choices or family. I don't do the social media smash and grab where I make myself look good in a moment, but then I try to change the narrative with the harder moments. So take it or leave it. You do not have to like me, but that is what's going to happen. I want to explain to you what took place yesterday and why I made the decision that I did. Human aggression towards me. Yes. And it was really scary. And I don't scare that easily. But it was scary because she's not well. Her mind is not okay. And when you're dealing with an animal who's displaying aggression and they're not okay, it's very, very dangerous. Okay? That's all there is to it. They have not agreed to anything. I haven't even sent in my copious notes. I was up all night kind of reviewing all of the pieces of this picture. And there were a lot of things that I suppressed because I wanted to help her. And in looking back on it, they were important. So I'm going to share with you the overview and then what happened last night. I've never met a dog who didn't want any affection either. And that's why I said to you, it's like she was feral. And even if she wasn't feral, we don't know what her history is. Could have come from a long line of feral dogs for all we know. In the first few weeks that she came here, the first couple of weeks, she was showing quite a bit of aggression towards me in very specific situations. As you know, this room behind me, she was known for barrier aggression and reactivity at a gate. Her notes, as you know, were severe resource guarding. Everything, furniture, toys, food. I never saw any of that. But I was not, and here's how you know that I wasn't ready to sign off on her not being that dog, because the first thing I do, and I've told you guys this, if you're advocating for shelter dogs, the first thing I do is rewrite the bio. Change the pictures, rewrite the bio, make the dog more approachable, more seen through my eyes. Because if I love the dog, then what I say about them is going to draw an adopter in. I never agreed to adopt this dog, but I was thinking about it. Not because she was the love of my life, because I did not think she was a safe candidate to place in a home. And although I didn't have the evidence of that yet, when you've been doing this as long as I have, with as many dogs as I have, in as many shelter kennels as I've been in, you learn to trust your instincts. And I did not think this dog was going to be a safe adoption, but I wasn't ready to say that because I didn't know her long enough. Now, this 3-day, 3-week, 3-month thing, I don't go by that. I go for the amount of time where the dog can establish in the home, which means they've settled in, they consider this to be where they're going to be, and that can be 6 months. But in the first week, there was that aggressing towards me in the evening. And only in the evening. I could close those gates in the daytime, not a problem. She had a lot of enthusiasm. She enjoyed playing. She was happy to walk. It was kind of like this adrenaline, which I considered to be the adrenaline dump from the shelter, just the excitement of being out of the shelter. Hadn't had a good night's sleep in 2 or 3 years. I just wanted to let the dust settle to start to see who she was once I started giving her a healthy food and a good night's sleep and a soft place to sleep. She was playful, but she was never affiliative. She never sought out affection. She was very uncomfortable being touched. She did not want that kind of engagement. She would tolerate it in a rare moment. But if you noticed, whenever I was doing a live with you, she'd satellite by, but she didn't want to be close. That personally for me was extremely difficult because I'm coming off the heels of the most loving dog that ever was. And so to go from a dog who loved me so much that I loved so much to a dog who was like, just keep your distance and we'll be good, that was hard. But it wasn't something I would punish her over. Like, I'm not going to not let her live here and be safe or work with her, try to help her because she wasn't Jude. It's a very hard reality, right? Like, that's when you have that kind of relationship with a dog and you have that kind of love, like anything else feels like, how am I going to navigate this? Like, you don't like me. I don't know what it is, but it was definitely different, but I accepted her for who she was. My approach to all of her behavior issues was to remove all conflict. If there was resource guarding, I knew there was a bite history, but she hadn't done anything more than nip at me. Handling sensitivities, things like and they were inhibited bites, nothing I took seriously. I didn't want her feeling like she had to comply, she had to obey, she had to anything, because I wanted her natural stuff to shine through and for her to be able to offer it. I got her on meds because of the evening strange, creepy lizard crawling spooky behavior that I was seeing. She was on exceedingly low dosages of medication, but once I got her started on medication, the aggression stopped. So I felt like we were on the right track. And then for 4 or 5 weeks, things were great. However, over the last couple of weeks, the distancing and loss of interest in any connection increased. She hid behind the couch 22 out of 24 hours a day. It was almost as if she was seeking out a space that felt that she was alone, or like her kennel, or just hidden. And I never forced her out of there. At one point, I attempted to close it off, but it caused her so much distress that it wasn't worth it, right? I just let her go where she feels she needs to be. No quality of life at all. And yet, every day her schedule was consistent. She went swimming. You've seen, I took her to the beach, multiple beaches. She went hiking out in the wood. Anything this dog could have wanted or needed to decompress and start to feel safe was all I was devoted to doing to her. And the the behavior modification in the moments that I could, but again, she wouldn't stay with me long enough for me to even work with her. If she had a choice, she was running. Okay, no problem. Increased enrichment and sniffing and all of these things. Over the last 7 to 10 days, the distancing began to increase. And then at some point, I don't remember when, but recently, I was walking out of that room. And by the way, I know it's medical. And I tried to get her to see a neurologist, and they didn't respond. They just never responded. I tried several times to reach out, and I could not get on their calendar. And by the way, I'm not going to a doctor that's 2 hours away if I can't connect with them on the phone. Because once you start a dog on medication, like the orthopedist, we were in touch afterwards over email. How's everything going? I'm worried about her. I want to know how whatever he said to me. To start on with a neurologist, not knowing if the dog's going in for an MRI or x-rays or what meds are going to, what if the meds don't work and you can't communicate with that doctor, that's not a relationship I'm pursuing. These are the choices that I'm making for the overall wellness of the situation. I did not let her claim that room because I work here, and I couldn't have her just pushing me out of that space. So I continued to sit on the couch. I didn't force touch on her. I didn't talk to her. I was just there so that she wouldn't start guarding that space. Not that she had, but these are calculated, strategic choices on my part. At some point over the last week, I got up to walk out of that room to get something to drink, and she charged after me as if she was going to bite me in the back of the legs and stopped herself. I think I talked to you guys about that either in a live or in a post, and I was so proud of her. I thought, she stopped herself. She didn't aggress on me. She literally ran after me, slid like she was on ice, and then bolted in the other direction and hid behind the couch. It was very strange. I know I told you, right? So you remember. This started to happen much more frequently. And by yesterday, over the weekend, it happened. I introduced her to the pet sitter on Saturday. I had her come back in on Sunday because I didn't want to send her to the training center anymore because it was only increasing her stress, and she was rehearsing the aggression towards that other person, and I did not want her brain yo-yoing up and down. I was trying to stabilize this. You're talking about rage syndrome. It felt a little like idiopathic rage, but I can't say for sure. I think it was space guarding, but again, thank you, Ray. I don't know. So I'm just going to give you the facts of what took place, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. Her sitter came on Saturday. I asked her to come back on Sunday. This is Jude's sitter. She's great with dogs. She's got great instinct, great intuition. At some point, I walked out of that room and Maya charged after me again. And the sitter went, whoa. And I said, yeah. And she said, maybe it was the Velcro or something. I said, I don't know, but I'm glad she stopped herself. She's like, yeah, good choice. We're all like, yeah, Maya made a good choice. Not Maya tried to aggress on you. Maya made a good choice. Yesterday, it happened 2 or 3 times, and I didn't like it. There was something about it that felt like she was very angry when she did it. She didn't seem scrambled. She didn't seem confused. She ran after me again, charged after me. Now, keep in mind, I stopped closing her behind this gate weeks ago because I didn't feel she needed it, but at no point did I never not close the baby gate behind me. I never felt safe enough to have her free roam in the house. I always felt nervous about her being loose in the house because she didn't seem like she was predictable enough in some of these moments that I thought it was a good idea. And I used my better judgment, and I baby gated myself in the back of the house. Yesterday, she charged me a couple of times. She did stop herself, but there was like a lingering, like, this, do you know what I'm looking at? Like that you recognize that expression? No, she hasn't been to the training center in weeks. That's why I had the sitter come in, so that she would not have to be exposed to that. But she ran after me and she looked at me like, ugh, and then she ran behind the couch again. I thought, yeah, this is getting a little bit. She went behind the couch. Now, I have been giving her steak bones throughout. You've seen her eating them in my lives. There was some old bone on her bed, and when I came out from the kitchen, she had come out from behind the couch and put the bone on the couch, which she's never done before. So after she's still on meds, and I made absolutely sure that the shelter does not discontinue that. After she charged me, went behind the couch, came out, put the bone on the couch, and sat there next to it. And I thought, oh, this is the guarding. There it is. I've had her for 8 weeks. I walked away. I never walk away right away. I just kind of paused, noted it, walked away, and she went behind the couch again. I came back when she was after that, and while she was behind the couch, I removed the bone because it felt like it was boiling up to something. I went in to get ice for her water. By the time I came back, she had come out from behind the couch, went over, looked on the couch, jumped up on it. She's 4 years and 7 months. I dropped an ice cube into her water bowl and she hard stared me. I paused. I went back to get more ice because she didn't have enough water. When I came back in, and now mind you, like that, I was probably 3 or 4 feet from her, and I just reached over and dropped the ice into the bowl. At which point I heard this, and I can't imitate it because I don't know how. But if you work with dogs and you've ever dealt with aggression, there is a sound that you never want to hear, and that is a low, rumbling belly growl. And that is what she was doing. So that, yes, not from up here, but the deep, deep belly growl. And at that point, I can see the entirety of her mouth, all teeth, top and bottom, and lips pulled all the way back. It was terrifying, and she wasn't stopping. So at that moment, I knew I was not safe. I didn't freeze, but I didn't want the growl to move me either. But something had changed in that moment. Something had changed. And as I look back on it, with all of the running up and wanting to bite me and not doing it and all of this, and there was something very, very wrong. But not like, her mouth was not closed. I could see all of her teeth. I stopped, paused. I didn't turn around because I knew she would charge me, and I just very quietly backed out of the room. I closed the baby gate, and I had told everybody I was doing a live on Instagram because I never do Instagram lives. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll capture some of this if it but so I started it, and I felt, and in that moment I thought, I have to bring her back to the shelter. And at the moment this happened, I texted the director and I said, I've got to return the dog, because, and I'm going to explain to you why. But throughout the evening, she continued to come to this gate, and I had to give her evening seizure meds. So I had to come back and deal with her. She was stalking. Were you there last night? You saw it. She was stalking me at the gate. Right. So it was a little bit dark in the hallway, so I couldn't see her eyes. I tried to turn on the light, but she never, ever stands there. She either goes behind the couch or she sits on the couch, but she was standing at that gate, fixated on me. You saw it. Right? You saw it. Never saw her do that before either. And I just got her meds, got a dollop of cream cheese, and dropped it onto the floor. And I put some gabapentin in there because I wanted her to go to sleep. This didn't happen at night. This happened at 5 o'clock. Not even close to nighttime when this happened. To me, especially with what I'm studying and reading about my brother's condition, understanding frontal lobe and brain and all of that, to me, this screams broken brain, something with the limbic system or the amygdala. The running away from me was her controlling herself, but what she wanted, it was primal. What she wanted to do was attack me, and she restrained herself, but it was almost as if the repeated restraint from going after me was trigger stacking, and then it all came tumbling down. I have said to you throughout, I've got to be able to leave her with somebody. At that moment, I knew I could never leave her with anybody. I would never put the sitter in a position of her doing that to her. And violence towards me. Those were my two criteria. And literally, I will share it with you. That afternoon, I took her outside and we were doing rhythmic movement where anytime she wanted to be with me, she could. There were treats in the grass. She could start activating her nose, maybe decompress a little bit. But this all happened after that. You know, when you do this and a dog's life, you're caring for an animal, I don't blame myself for her behavior. I'm sick over the fact that the dog has to suffer. I'm sick over the fact that she had to suffer before I got there, but I also think she's a very dangerous dog. And the last thing I'm going to do is attempt to not be honest about what happened and have her end up in a home with somebody where she could. Can you imagine if this was an apartment and I didn't have a place to go? Or I didn't have the reflexes that I have? Like in those moments, those reflexes have to become very quiet. When you get attacked by a dog, it has to become quiet. You can't start yelling at them. You can't start moving quickly, or you activate that behavior even more. I am getting a lot of anger from some people about me begging the shelter to euthanize her. Because there is nothing, if she can't live here, as somebody said to me, well, you think you're the greatest trainer? No, I don't. I'm not a trainer. I rehabilitate behavior, but I'm not an idiot either. And I have been I didn't tell you guys this, but not depressed, but really sad since she's been here, because there's been an absence of joy. There's been an absence of love. And I've never had a dog that didn't have one or the other or some combination of both. But this dog, she just wanted to get away from everybody. And while there were glimmers of moments where she'd jump up on the bed and play tug with me or let me pet her head, she didn't get a lot of joy from that. She was significantly damaged. And I can't tell you what's going on in her brain. I'm not a neurologist and I didn't slice her head open to look. I can tell you that she's dangerous and somebody could get very hurt by her. And if there's something neurological going on, that the fact that she was in the shelter for 2 years without seizure meds, who knows how much damage was going on? All I know was that in that moment, both of my criteria were broken. And I got up this morning and she was her normal self. I got her up at like 5:30 or 6 o'clock because the shelter's 2 hours from here, and walked her around the block, got her into the car, and we got a few blocks from the shelter and she knew exactly where she was. And she started screaming. And I had all I could do not to bring her back and take her home, because part of me feels like, okay, I'll manage this. I'll just manage this. I don't want the dog to suffer. I'll just keep her. But I have too many people that need me right now, and I don't have anyone to leave her with, and that's not sustainable. But it's all I wanted to do was protect her. I tried to power through that. A part of me feels like she's more comfortable at the shelter. She doesn't want to have relationships with people. And one of the volunteers said on Instagram, I can't believe you begged the shelter to euthanize her. Please don't do that. We'll take care of her. And I'm thinking, how? How are you going to take care of her? You're going to walk her for 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week? No, I took care of her. You walking a dog at the shelter is not taking care of her. That's not a life for her in a box. I'm very troubled by the fact that there is, well, they love her. They don't want anything to happen to her. And I guess, and I understand that, but this is not a choice. It is not a humane thing to do, to put such an athletic dog in a cinder block box with no lights, no windows, no nothing. That is not the way to go. I don't know why the town is holding up these long stay dogs who have been in these kennels for years, who have done damage. They should not be sent to rescue. They are not safe animals, and the resources and the risk are so great. The longer the dogs live in kennels, the more damage can be done. The brain can't survive that kind of trauma. It's real. I mean, sometimes yes, but often no. So for people to get angry at the idea of trying to spare the dog suffering, it's completely beyond me. She was surrendered because of her resource guarding in the home. She was surrendered by the same family twice. It's very dangerous. She was not my dog. I could not euthanize her. I didn't own her. She was a foster. I don't know why it's the town's decision. The shelter needs the town's approval. I don't know if they are the money on the board. I don't know the politics of that shelter. I don't know. I've been told that it's not uncommon. I've never heard of that before. But I've worked in enough shelters and worked with enough dogs to know that there are shelters housing dogs for years and years and years, and the adoption team only works with cats. So nobody, even if someone came in to meet that dog, they would never take them out. That family would never meet that dog. I have foster dogs that people were trying to adopt for years. And the adoption team was afraid of the dog because they completely misread them. So here's what took place and what the behavior was. Transferring resources. It went from guarding objects to guarding space. And I have always said to you that the one behavior that I think is almost impossible to work through is guarding of space. Guarding of space can show up once that starts to present. It can show up in a hallway. It can show up in a doorway. This dog could have decided to claim the entirety of this house. I wouldn't have been able to walk through this house because, and I've seen people try to work through that with e-collars, and you know what happens to them if the remote fails or the battery dies, they get hurt. So it's not a long-term solution. And the people that I work with and respect who are balance trainers and use e-collars would never use an e-collar for guarding. Too much pressure. Too much pressure. It's not even the pain. It's that you're not changing the motivation. You're not teaching them any other way to respond. And if you're using it to back a dog out of a space, you can achieve that. But if your equipment malfunctions or you forget, so look, that you see these double doors in my kitchen, the baby gate that I close myself behind is there. I closed myself behind the gate and forgot to close those doors. And I spent the night terrified that she would decide to jump over that and she would get to me. That's not a way to live in my own house, to be afraid. It's just not. That's just not something I'm willing to do. Management always fails. You can rely on tools to present a picture, or create a picture that might look good for a while. Jude was trained on an e-collar. Do you think it did anything for him? It made him so irate at the sight of another dog that it increased his rage tenfold. It took me years to work through that. Never brought a dog back to a shelter. I couldn't believe the words were coming out of my mouth. And then I texted her tonight and I said, can I adopt her so I can euthanize her? Even though I said that's not what I want to do and I don't want to play that role and I didn't take her in, it was no longer a behavior case, it was a medical case. And it didn't matter that that's not what I signed on for. That's what it was, and that's what it was here, and I had to try to deal with it. I care for her, so I don't want her to suffer. It's a very risky place to start taking dogs to euthanize them because you see how much grief I'm getting. I told you on Instagram and the hate that I'm getting over there for this conversation, which is fine. It doesn't matter. But if I pulled that dog and euthanized her, that could be a reputation that would be irrevocable. Fortunately, I have kept very detailed notes. I dropped her off this morning. She was in bad shape when I left her. Believe me, they want so badly to do the right thing, but that was behavior you couldn't repair. That's not a training issue. That's a medical issue. I'm so sad for her too. No, they didn't answer me. I don't want to do that. And I would do it for her, but you have to understand professionally, it's very risky for me to do that. Very risky. But part of me wanted to take her back in and see if I could could I change the meds? Could I find the doctor? There aren't answers to every problem. There are not solutions to every problem. But I would never not tell you what goes on. You may not agree with my perspective or how I go about doing what I do, but generally speaking, every dog that's come here has had a very successful life. I can't help it if they ended up getting sick, but they had a very successful life. This I was in over my head because this is medical. I don't know how you fix that. I don't think you can. I didn't walk her into the shelter. They wanted me to put her in her kennel, and I said, I don't know this facility. I don't even know I don't know where her kennel is. I'm not doing that. And I just couldn't do it. I would not have returned her to the shelter if my life wasn't in danger. Of that, you can be sure. I know what I'm taking on when I do it. I understand what the risks are. How do I break down that she was a medical case? By everything I saw here. What triggered her when she attacked me? She's been half-heartedly attacking me for the last 5 or 6 days. She just has managed to stop herself. So when I believe that her stopping herself was trigger stacking in a sense, and that at some point that just broke down. Believe me, I mean, I got into this whole nonsense a decade ago because I didn't want to watch them suffer. So I just kept taking them into my home, and then I would place them. And I often found that what everybody thought about them was just not them. It's too risky to have her here. If it was anybody else that was here yesterday when she went after me, they would have gotten hurt. She charged me a number of times. She then started very low, deep belly growling and baring full top and bottom teeth. I gave her no provocation whatsoever, and I was able to back out of the room safely. I've been doing muzzle training with her. She can't live in a muzzle. Muzzle training her would be a Band-Aid. So if the dog was, you see, the key word here is unpredictable. She's unpredictably aggressive. If I've lived with dogs who have human aggression. Benito put 2 people in the hospital. Jude had 2 bites on record. But it was predictable. You understood what the triggers were. I understood why. And exactly, how would I feel? I would not place a dog like that. But I would never place a dog like that. I would have her live here if I thought I could manage her. But my brother's dying. My mother is dying. I have to be able to leave the house. So I cannot not have her able to be watched by someone, and I don't believe she's safe to put in anyone else's hands, and I wouldn't do that to somebody else. So I felt like I was out of options. It's not because I'm not overwhelmed because I lost my dog or my family's ill. I was very, if you think about it, very pragmatically tracking through solving the problems to be able to keep her here, have a pet sitter that was skilled and savvy, get her the medical help that she needs. That's what I've been doing while she's here. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. I doesn't have separation anxiety. I think she was happier when I wasn't here, to be honest, which is kind of fucked up. Like she just, whatever we did, there was conflict for her. If we went outside, she ran to the car like she wanted to be in it and then started freaking out when she was in it. If we went to the beach where I thought she wanted to go, she'd get excited and then immediately beeline back to the car. It was as if life was too hard for her to reconcile. What's going to happen to her? I mean, that's an excellent question. I don't know. I have a full report and notes to send to the shelter so they can present it to the town. My hope is that they will euthanize her, but my understanding is that they tend to not do that, and they keep them. And if that's what's going to happen to her, I don't have any control over it, but I'm sick over it. Lots of messages tonight. I know you have a lot of questions, and I understand that, and I want to answer them. Would I ever adopt a normal dog? I think that's going to be next. I have been saying all along, of course, the house is empty now. There's no dog here. And I'm not going to lie. It makes me miss Jude even more. But I didn't get her to replace Jude. I took her because I have the ability to take dogs in and offer them a unicorn home for dogs who have special needs. But now I know exactly what I want. And I've told you this before. I want a meat-headed, doofy American bully puppy. That's what I want. So yeah, I'm already talking to somebody about a potential dog that I might be able to do after the summer. I want to get through all the medical stuff in the family first. And I don't want to hang out with people. I just want to be with dogs. So yeah, I'm going to need one. Yes, that's what I want. Some drive, some silliness. I miss laughing. Laughing with a dog. It's a good plan. Yeah, I've been a shelter dog advocate for 10 years now. And I'm not sure that that's what I have to live with. Do you know? Like, I work with dogs all day long. I help dogs all over the world. And I will never stop doing that. But I also deserve a dog that I can be happy with, that isn't making me cry. You know what I mean? Like, or feeling like I can't do anything. I want a dog to love, or 2 or 3 or 4. I used to have a big pack of dogs. And then I started working with dogs that were problem dogs, and they needed to live alone. So that's what we've been doing for the last God knows how many years. But it's enough heartache at a certain point. I don't want to have a dog to only deal with suffering. And our shelter system is so broken that that's what we've got. Could someone adopt her and get her euthanized? I mean, I can't, I'm not a puppet master. I don't know how to pull the string. I'm not giving you a hard time about your question. I don't know how to put all of that together. And if it ended up coming back that I was the one that's doing it, that's like espionage work. That's more than I think I can handle. What is the best time spent is better regulation. Should dogs don't? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying all shelter dogs are like this. I tend to be drawn towards the longest stays with the biggest problems. What I'm suggesting is not that all shelter dogs aren't worth the time or the effort. What I'm suggesting is that personally, I want a dog to love again. I don't want a dog just to take care of and rehab. The big moment that went down that made me decide that was the right choice, when she tried to attack me and when she bared teeth and started threatening me. That was enough for me. It took me 2 years to get to the bottom of Jude's medical issues, and Jude was in the shelter system for most of his life, and nobody ever pulled the covers back. They didn't know he was having seizures. They didn't know he had spinal compromise and pain and cancer, you know? So by the time they get to me, they're so damaged that I don't even get that much time with them because they're sick. So even Jude, who I did all that behavior work on, got cancer. I send me a picture of what? I'm not ready right now. And a part of me wants to just keep fostering dogs, but it takes a lot out of me, do you know? And I'm not happy not having a dog in the house, but I think a little breathing room is a healthy thing right now. Once I get a dog, will I continue training? I mean, I'm teaching all the time. I have a university program for dog trainers, and I have clients that I see daily all over the world. So it's important to understand that what I'm describing in the behaviors that I witnessed in Maya, I believe are driven by a defective brain. I don't know what part of her brain was defective, but something was very wrong. And so the aggression presented as a lot of attempts to charge after me in a very unfriendly way that she was able to stop herself from, but it had only happened at night. It then started happening throughout the day. Thank you. But it started to become breakthrough behavior. So what I ended up seeing that culminated in this event last night was this bounce back between, thank you, Cassie, bounce back between desperately trying to create distance and not be at all social or integrated with me in the household. Literally hiding anywhere she could to not have to have a social relationship of any kind. Bounced back and forth from that to charging after me. And then last night, the growling and teeth and I mean, she meant nothing good was coming. I needed to just, I had to get myself out safely, or it was going to be extremely unpleasant. And I'm not willing to get hurt. I've been hurt. It's not my favorite thing. It hasn't happened many times, but it's once was a resource guarding incident many years ago, and once was an overactive nervous system, and the dog just exploded. And it wasn't really directed at me. It was an environmental trigger, multiple environmental triggers. And then what happened? Did I have to leave? She began threatening me from that room and baring full top and bottom teeth with a deep, low belly growl, which is the precursor to a bite. So I'm not going to adopt her and euthanize her. Even though I asked them if they would let me, I don't think that sets up a good situation for me. I would do it to spare her, but there's a lot of repercussions that could come from that. You know, my entire reputation as someone who helps dogs could be completely decimated by adopting a dog and euthanizing it without people knowing what the full story is. It could be catastrophic for me. And then I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And that would be very unfortunate. I'm getting a lot of hate for it. Yes, you're absolutely right. I don't need any more. And I certainly understand social media and keyboard warriors, but there are a lot of people who are very angry for me even recommending euthanasia. And I just euthanized my dog for cancer. That's not what I do. It's not my mess. Well, no, she's in the custody of the city. I know, but I care about her and I don't want her to suffer. It's a very fine line. And I don't know. They're very, very angry. I think, I understand that they're angry that I took her back to the shelter. I understand. It's not up to the shelter. It's up to the town. They do think behavioral euthanasia is the answer. But whatever, I don't know the politics of this or how it works, but I have been told by other people that in some places the town can cause a lot of grief or interference, or I don't know if it's funding. I don't know. In my TikTok community, I'll handle the audio. Please. That's so funny. And I gotta tell you something. I don't do lives on Instagram because it's such a sucky app. And I decided to do it yesterday because they kept asking me, why do you only do it on TikTok? I was, okay, I'll do it. And then this happened right before that. Some of you were here. You were here when it was happening, or the immediate aftermath, and her hard staring me and threatening me at the gate, right? So some of you saw it. So you witnessed it. And she continued to hard stare me throughout the evening until her meds kicked in, and then she fell asleep. I didn't save the live. It's not like on Instagram, on TikTok, where you can look at it and edit out all the ums and the long things. And it was like publish or delete, and I just hit delete. I didn't want it living there forever. I should have. No, and I was becoming a prisoner in my own home, and I work in this room, so I can't have her. She's going to live behind the couch. That's all she wanted to do. Yeah. So as far as the whole BE thing, I'm pretty clear about what I think is appropriate and when it's appropriate to euthanize a dog. And I think if they have unpredictable aggression, particularly towards humans, that's not a safe dog to adopt. I was just talking to a friend of mine who I adore, she works with a group of people, and they had taken in a Cane Corso who the owners couldn't keep it anymore or paid them to take it or something. I don't remember the details of it, but this was a 150-pound dog, highly trained, outstanding obedience, looked perfect. They had the dog for a month. The dog heard a baby cry and in an instant was going for that baby. And she said we had to euthanize the dog. There's no way we could release that dog to the public. It's clearly aggressive towards children. I was talking to a client this afternoon. I think we have so normalized aberrant behavior because there are so many dogs who are so challenging for all sorts of reasons, backyard breeders and cross genetics and all of that stuff. There's so many difficult dogs with so many problems that we just expect that's part of the landscape. But at a certain point, you have to have your lines in the sand. I'm not going to be afraid in my own home. I was willing for her not to love me. I was willing for her not to want to work with me. I was willing for me to be unhappy so she could have a roof over her head and not live in a kennel. But I am not going to live with a dog who's going to want to hurt me. Right, she's suffering. She's not a well animal. Yeah, if you've been attacked, you freaking know. She had no joy. And that's a very sad thing to see in a dog. If you live with a dog that required BE, you would know. Yes, exactly right. Thank you. I don't feel like I did a whole lot for her. I would. The hell was that? It was a very quick decision on my part. The second I saw her aggress towards me, I immediately called the shelter and I said, I'm bringing her back. She was not abused. No. I don't feel relief. I just feel sad right now. And I don't want to use the word comfort because I don't feel like I gave her anything. She had a chance, but it was so short. It was only 8 weeks. I think it's harder to take them out of the shelter and send them back, you know? The only thing, and I know this sounds so convoluted, but I almost felt like she was happier there. I know, but if you've ever returned a dog to a shelter, like when I first started fostering long-stay dogs who had been in kennels for many years, every time I brought them back from a sleepover, they would scream. I've never heard an animal make a sound like that. So the return is the hardest part. It's almost worse to take them out. Now, I know some people don't agree with that because we need home notes and we need information. And right, but then there are times that you get them out and you learn all sorts of things about them. But again, for the first 6.5 weeks, none of this behavior showed up. So you've got to give them enough time for the uglies to come out, you know? And as unpleasant as it was, I'm glad it happened here and not in somebody's home who had a family or lived in a small space, because it was scary. Yeah, aggression is no joke. It's no joke. That's really great to hear. And I don't want to set the tone. Thank you. And thank you for your messages yesterday. It was really helpful. Yes, I was scared. And yes, it was serious. And I'm not saying don't adopt or don't rescue. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I pull dogs who most people can't take because I can, and I love doing that work. But it's been a long time of that work, and I'm ready to pivot. But there are plenty of highly adoptable dogs in the shelter. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about. Often I don't. A break is good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for her. I just hope she doesn't end up in purgatory. So backing you into a corner, yeah, that's super scary. I think, I don't, so Maya threatened me when she first came here as well, but I knew what her triggers were, right? Like I knew that the gates are going to be provocative for her, but I didn't have a choice. I wasn't not going to confine her from the rest of the house. But look, she had this big, beautiful room with a TV and a couple of couches. It wasn't like a kennel. It wasn't like a crate. It wasn't anything of that. But it slowed down. I got her on behavior meds, and we started to develop some sort of working relationship and routine, and she was sleeping well, and she started to seem as though she was getting better. But it was all bubbling under the surface. I mean, you could write to the township, I guess, but I honestly wouldn't know how to recommend moving forward. If I were you, instead of everyone suddenly writing to the town, I would ask the shelter what you can do to have an impact on the decisions that the town makes. I don't know. You could write to the town, but I guess I haven't formed my thoughts, but I think what comes to mind first is that I don't want the validity of the experience here to be obstructed by drama. And I'm not accusing you of being dramatic. I'm saying that if all of these letters started to show up, you've got to euthanize this dog, and then all my notes come in, it's almost like the stage has already been set for this thing. I don't even know if they would realize it or read them with any objectivity. And I think because I'm a professional, it's not like I'm, just some lady that adopted a dog and ended up in over my head. So, and I started to say the person that said that they backed you into a corner, there's some offensive behavior that can go on when you first bring a dog in, potentially, where they're uncomfortable or nervous or startled easily. But after 8 weeks in the home, the person who's taking you out and bringing you places you enjoy and feeding you and providing you comfort to aggress on that person, that's not normal. And they'll assume it's a social media thing and not take it seriously. That's what Beck, I always need you to kind of say what I'm trying to say. Would I want to be there? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. My opinion on having more than one dog with an aggressive dog, I think it's difficult. I think it's really difficult. I think if you've got a really big space and you've got all kinds of management things in place and the dogs aren't super large, powerful dogs, she was not happy at all. She was screaming in the car before I even pulled down that street. Yes, there are tons of great dogs. I did do that. I already said that. I don't know if you were here, but I just said that there are tons of amazing dogs in the shelters. Those are not the dogs that I pull. So this is my experience based on the types of dogs that I gravitate towards to help. She didn't make contact with me. There's no need for a rabies hold. I was able to back out of the room. Yeah. It's a hard journey. Very gratifying much of the time, though. The good certainly outweighs the bad. It's I don't have a stomach for suffering, I can't just shut it off like that. But I'll share with you tomorrow, maybe. I'll share with you the video of her working with me in the yard, and you'll see how very calculated I am about not closing space on her and allowing her to feel like everything is her choice. Yeah. Jude-sized head is what I'm after. A giant coffee table head. Oh, that's really hard. Yeah, stray dogs need a lot of gut support before you expect anything from them. There's a lot of tabs. Hi, Maya. I'm just your dogs. That's what I want. The dogs that you have, Cash and Meatball. Cash the Meatball. I forgot the other one's name. I'm sorry. Cash is the one I work with, so that's what I remembered. There's a tab at the top of my page on gut health, and I can tell you that the first thing you're going to do is start working on gut health, because sometimes that gnarly behavior is an overactive nervous system from gut microbiome being faulty. The dog I found bigger than Jude, his head was bigger than Jude's. Yes, he was a red Mastiff. He had a giant head. He was not a blue nose, though. Rescued by a Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Oh, you don't have the dog anymore. Sorry, I misunderstood. Kaylee, right? Kaylee. Is it Kaylee Rochelle or just Kaylee? I don't know. I'm just reading it, but we'll call you Kaylee for now. But do you guys, do you understand why and what happened? While it was fresh in my mind, I just wanted you to have the facts while they're clear. And I didn't want to mislead you about what had taken place or lead you to believe that she was still here. It's a pretty middle name. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. You saw it. I know you did. You saw it. It was, you saw it when it was behind the gate. You didn't see it when it actually happened. It was intimidating. She was very, very angry. But that's what we're going to talk about, Emma. So fluoxetine, any SRI, 1730 for 530. Okay, you guys are just smarter than I am. Any SSRI is going to take a loading period of around 5 weeks, but there is an instant boost to the serotonin. So if you go on Dr. Serena Pet Vet is her account. She made a post responding to me talking about, I don't remember exactly what, but it was like, oh, this is so good. We have to do a deeper dive and do a live. So I know all of these people knowing what military time is. What is that about? That's crazy. But yeah, so I want to go deeper than just the loading period and how it works, but she explains the synapses in the brain and how the SSRIs work. There are a lot of other medications that are starting to be used more frequently as cocktails than just fluoxetine. And they're like, I was told Zoloft would not be a good choice for Maya because sometimes the dogs can become a little agitated on it. But well, I don't think we can ask Dr. Serena questions about all of our individual situations. I always try when I'm hosting a live to lead the conversation in a direction that will give the most people more information. Patty, that's a great question. I do not believe that was the case, because the dosage that she was on was what you would give a Chihuahua. It was 10 milligrams. And the second she went on it, the aggression stopped. And the seizures, she had to be on meds, because I believe that if she's had seizures all this time and was not on medication, that it probably further damaged her brain. Which is why, if we're going to keep dogs in shelters for years and years and years, the same thing with Jude. He had seizures and nobody knew it. If you're going to do that, someone should be doing a medical workup, but we don't have the bandwidth for all of that. So, yeah, Traz is, yes, we talk about Traz all the time, but we will definitely, I'm sure she'll cover that we do not use. And by the way, Maya was on Traz for 2 years. You don't give a dog Traz if they have aggression. I happen to love GABA, and I'm trying not to say it because my TikTok will get flagged, but Dr. Forbes and I did a live a couple of weeks ago about all the different medications. I don't think, let me just say this, and Dr. Serena is going to say the same thing. Medication does not change behavior. Medication does not change behavior. It doesn't change behavior. So if your vet prescribes medication and your dog's behavior doesn't change, the reason for that is that if you do not dovetail medication with behavior modification, it won't do shit. It will not. It's like a kid with ADD not having behavior modification, not learning how to remember, I said I was going into my room to do my homework, and just spacing out and going down the hall and doing something else. Medication aids behavior change, yes. So all medication does, if it's the proper med for it's the proper diagnosis and the right treatment, it creates, as I like to say, a clean canvas so that you can paint a different picture. That's all. It opens up the channels of cognition so that we can teach. The other problem is, from a behavior lens, that most people, trainers, don't understand what the hell behavior modification is, and they're doing obedience, or they're stuffing cookies and doing threshold work, and that does not change behavior. It's just not the same thing. It allows for a more level playing field, exactly, which is why my protocols are all about observation, building new neural pathways, learning how to take information in without the nervous system spiking, without the panic and arousal becoming off the charts and unmanageable. So we can do things like build food fluency, observation, learning new skill sets, not working at opposite ends of a football field, never having anybody to the home because the dog is out of, like, Cash the meatball. How did Cash used to be with people before we started working? That people couldn't walk through the room. Significant change in that dog, I'm proud to say. Right, because we taught him how to do all of that. But clonidine was something I was interested in doing for Maya, but I was not comfortable adding that many things at the same time. There was just too much to notice and not enough clarity in her behavior for me to just pump her full of stuff. But I know that clonidine is an excellent solution for a lot of dogs. So here you have people who have worked with me in the chat to testify or attest to what this work can do, but it is not obedience. And so medication needs to be, and Ezra, you and I work together. I don't know who, Becca, I've worked with a lot of you. It has to be specific to brain function. I know, and you're dealing with pain. Maya's outcome, I don't know. I just brought her back this morning. I'm hoping that I get an update. I will send my notes in tomorrow, and then it's going to be a matter of getting them in front of the town. I don't know. It's very hard for me to not go and pull her out of there. But, you know, at the end of the day, I know you are, Ezra. I know it breaks my heart that she's in pain. She has a bed. I mean, I don't want that to happen to her either. Anything that could have been done initially in the shelter, no. I don't think this is something you can fix. I think it's her brain. She's a dangerous dog. Sadly, I don't even like saying that about her because she's adorable, but she's not a safe dog to have in a home. If I cannot get her out from behind the gate today, you're going to have to call animal control to pick her up. But I know that this stuff happens more in the latter part of the day, so I was able to manage it myself. It's not something but this is how I get myself into this situation, is I take them and then I can't bring them back. But I'm not putting myself at risk on the daily. So it's not happening. And I don't believe it can be trained. And I'm really sorry. I know you loved her. It was a painful day. Okay, I will, what'd you tell me, you guys? 17:30 for 5:30? Is that what you said? I'll put that, yes, okay. Oh, I'm sorry either way. I'm sorry for her, not for myself. Love you too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will put an event up for the Dr. Serena thing. Stay tuned. There's always more. And we'll keep you posted. Thank you for the support through thick and thin. You guys are amazing. Yeah, so we'll keep working. I'll share case studies with you as I go through them. But I'll keep you posted on what's going on as I know it. Okay? Okay. Good night, everybody.